Mr. Vice
I don't know what else I can say to you.
Well, I'm going to try and ask many different ways. Stacey Abrams said during the Kavanaugh hearings, I believe women. I believe survivors of assault should be supported and their voices heard. Kirsten Gillibrand tweeted, do we believe women? Do we give them the opportunity to tell their story? We must be a country that says yes every time. They now both support you. Nancy Pelosi falls into this category too, as well as many other leaders in the Democratic Party. Are women to be believed? Are women to be believed unless it pertains to you?
That is a damning indictment that Mika just gave of one Joe Biden. And again, it's not so much saying you did X or you did Y. It's more so about making the point that credible allegations should be investigated, especially if the person is running for political office. The Democratic Party did the exact same thing with Kavanaugh, but for whatever reason, now they've all flipped and have taken an entirely diametrically opposed position to one Tara Reade. To put this in perspective, this is...
The Hill's opinion contributor Liz Peek writes in a new op-ed, quote,
Take, for example, this. I'm not going to show this entire video, but I just want to make the point. What Mika was talking about.
I watched that hearing last Thursday, and I believe Dr. Ford.
I believe Dr. Ford. I thought she was credible.
I believe her. Her story is credible.
It comes down to credibility, to your point, Gail, and it's going to be about listening to what each party has to say, but I believe her.
I was proud of Dr. Blasey Ford's response and her demeanor, but more importantly...
All of these people are trying to get the vice president spot. All of these people were on board for, I believe women, I believe women. Brett Kavanaugh is guilty, Brett Kavanaugh is guilty. And yet, with the moment that the allegations come off of Biden, where there's more cooperating evidence than even the Ford case, all of these people who, for the most part, implicitly believe Ford over Kavanaugh, all of a sudden took the opposite position and started to believe Biden. Initially, they tried to make the argument that the New York Times investigated this and found that Joe Biden had told the truth and Reade's story wasn't necessarily legit. New York Times came out and made the point that that didn't happen. Joe Biden is basically lying. Their campaign is lying. And Stacey Abrams was the one who came out and said that. Those were the talking points, though, that Joe Biden's campaign was coming out with. Basically trying to denigrate and undermine Reade's allegation. Biden tried to ignore this. The media tried to ignore this. And eventually, more evidence kept coming up. The Associated Press found 2 more sources that came up to corroborate Tara Reade's story. She had one neighbor to come out to corroborate the story. Everybody could see her. The woman talked on Democracy Now! Reade herself came out to explain what took place. Reade making the point that she was a sexual harassment allegation that she filed. And so that's floating around somewhere that people are looking for. Her mom calls in to Larry King to basically say what Reade had said. And Reade made the point that that is my mom. I told my mom about it, but I didn't want her to say anything about it. So her mom talked in this kind of coded language, but got across that somebody molested and attacked my daughter. It got to the point that they couldn't ignore it. MSNBC Chris Hayes covers the story. The problem is every Democrat lined up with this notion that I believe Joe Biden. Almost uniformly, the party of Me Too burns Me Too to the ground in order to stand beside Joe Biden as the person that is supposedly going to hold back the night that is Donald Trump. Here's the problem. For all of these people who say they believe Joe Biden, my question is, why do you implicitly believe Joe Biden? Joe Biden has a history of flagrantly lying. He is a proven liar. This is not my conjecture. This is not my opinion. This is not me being unfair or harsh. This is just flat, fact reality. Joe Biden is a proven liar. So if Tom Perez is going to turn around and say, yeah, we're not going to have an investigation because Obama vetted him, and I believe Obama, so I believe Joe Biden, they are willing to burn Me Too to the ground in order to make this point. And the person who they're saying they're giving their belief to has a history of just being flagrantly dishonest. Welcome. Late Night Soapbox. My name is Jamal Thomas. This is the Progressive Soapbox. Might as well say a late Sunday night soapbox. I wanted to get this video in before it gets too late. I may have one more after this. It depends on how I feel after this video. But I'm not going to keep this long. I've been doing shows all day today to try to play catch up. But this one was bugging me, so I kind of want to do this story. All of these Democrats have lined up with hashtag I believe Biden or hashtag Reade is lying. They've attacked her, they've smeared her, they've doxed her, putting her information out. They've gone after her whole hog. One Democrat came out and said her vagina is in the wrong place for Joe Biden to be able to molest her in that particular way. Other people have come out being more honest, like Lisa Bloom, basically saying, yes, I believe you, Tara Reid. I totally believe you. Tara Reid basically said, I feel maligned and attacked for coming out with my story. And part and principle of the Me Too movement was supposedly that women would have space to make their case. And this is the opposite of that because of basic partisanship. They want Trump to win, so whether or not Biden raped her matters less to them. It's not an issue of believe women. It's believe women was politically convenient for you. That's the reality of it. Listen to Biden. I'm going to do memory lane. My contention is Joe Biden is a proven liar. And if Joe Biden is a proven liar, then the argument that I believe Biden is nonsensical and is done entirely for political reasons to keep your guy from being investigated. Memory lane. Let's start here.
We should freeze federal spending. I meant Social Security as well. I meant Medicare and Medicaid. I meant veterans benefits. I meant every single solitary thing in the government. And I not only tried it once, I tried it twice, I tried it a third time, and I tried it a fourth time. Well, we've got some...
Now, Sanders put that video out because Joe Biden basically started lying about Social Security. Joe Biden has spent his career trying to cut Social Security. Bernie Sanders brought up the fact that you've spent years trying to cut Social Security or a balanced budget. Again, a right-wing lunatic idea. And Biden denied it. He also denied the Iraq War vote. And he also argued that he got locked up trying to go and see Mandela. PolitiFact gave this a pants on fire. I had the great honor of being arrested by the UN ambassador on the streets of Soweto trying to get to see Nelson Mandela on Robbins Island. He goes further to say Nelson Mandela thanked him for this. Eventually, his people had to come out and walk this back. But is his memory failing him? Is this cognitive decline, or is he just lying? Is he just lying? He got caught lying about Social Security. He's getting caught lying about the South Africa thing. This took place in one of his previous campaigns that, for whatever reason, opposition research for Sanders never came up with. Let's hear this.
Explaining to do. The new questions stem from taped remarks of Biden during an April campaign appearance in New Hampshire.
I went to law school on a full academic scholarship, the only one in my class to have a full academic scholarship. Went back to law school and, in fact, ended up in the top half of my class. I was the outstanding student in the political science department at the end of my year. I graduated with 3 degrees from undergraduate school and 165 credits, only needed 123 credits.
Biden now concedes he did not graduate in the top half of his law school class, that he does not have 3 degrees from college, and that he was not named outstanding political science student in college.
Newsweek says Biden actually went to school on a half scholarship, ended up near the bottom of his class, and won only 1 degree, not 3.
Joe Biden ranked 76th in a class of 85 at the University of Syracuse Law School. I mean, this guy comes off this whole thing as a flyweight.
Now Biden says Newsweek is right. His memory had failed him.
Did his memory fail him, or did he just lie? Was that a lie, or did his memory fail him? Be honest. That's all I'm asking. Joe Biden has a history of lying. That was a whopper in and of itself. Are you telling me that Joe Biden didn't remember that he only had 1 degree and that he was finishing in the bottom of his class? 3 degrees. Now, this continues to get worse. Keep going. Civil rights. Let's hear Joe Biden make his argument about civil rights.
I did not march with a 12-point program. I marched with tens of thousands of others to change attitudes. And we changed attitudes.
Delaware, for real, I got involved in the civil rights movement. We have the 8th largest black population in America. Most people don't know that. And I'd go to 8 o'clock Mass, then I'd go to Reverend Herring's church where we'd meet in order to organize and figure where we were going to go, whether we were going to desegregate the Rialto movie theater or what we were going to do. I got my education for real in the black church. And that's not hyperbole, it's a fact. But I got my education, Reverend Doc, in the black church.
During the 60s, I was, in fact, very concerned about the civil rights movement. I was not an activist. I worked at an all-black swimming pool in the east side of Wilmington, Delaware. I was involved. I was involved in what they were thinking, what they were feeling. I was involved, but I was not out marching. I was not down in Selma. I was not anywhere else. I was a suburbanite kid who got a dose of exposure to what was happening to black Americans when I'm in my own city.
Now, understand what you've just seen. Joe Biden, in one clip, goes from person to person, one black person after the next, and say he was involved in the civil rights movement and he was helping liberate you. I was out there helping liberate you when I was, a kid out there marching with these other civil rights leaders. And then you saw the honesty of it in 1987 when he comes out and says, okay, I lied about that. I wasn't really part of the civil rights movement, because he made that play before. He made that lie before, and he came back again to make that lie again this time around. And the media, no memory of this at all. Sanders, no memory of this at all, allows it to pass without bringing that up. How disrespectful this is. Understand how disgusting this is. You have something as sacred as the civil rights movement, people getting shot, people getting dragged and kicked and beaten and bitten by dogs, people who are sitting in order for making this argument. I am a person, I am a man, I have just much right to exist as you do. And Biden, who wasn't a part of that, taps into that in order to make his argument that I get the black vote and I was there back there in the 60s and the 50s helping you out, trying to liberate your people in this fascistic country. And all of it is a lie. He's already even admitted to the lie, but it never came up in regards to the argument. The only point I'm making here, I'm being very specific, Joe Biden is a proven liar. And if Joe Biden is a proven liar, the note that you're going to turn around and say, I trust Biden, does not make all that much sense. Let's keep going. If he's willing to lie about civil rights, he'll lie about anything, right? How about this one? This got him kicked out of the campaign.
Ultimately, it was accusations of plagiarism in his speeches.
I did not know that was a Robert Kennedy quote. My mistake.
That forced him to drop out of the race.
I made some mistakes.
After that...
Yes, he made some mistakes. In that case, he got kicked out of the race because he plagiarized speeches. The notion that it was just one person, it wasn't just one person, it was several speeches.
Children, the quality of our education, the joy of their play.
Yet the gross national product does not allow for the health of our children, the quality of their education, or the joy of their play.
Let us pledge that our generation of Americans will pay any price, bear any burden, accept any challenge, and meet any hardship to secure the blessings of prosperity and the promise of opportunity for our children.
We shall pay any price, bear any burden, meet any hardship, support any friend, oppose any foe to assure the survival and the success of liberty.
And I started thinking as I was coming over here, why is it that Joe Biden is the first in his family ever to go to a university?
Why am I the first Kinnick in 1,000 generations to be able to get to university?
Why is it that my wife, who's sitting out there in the audience, is the first in her family to ever go to college?
Why is Glenys the first woman in her family in 1,000 generations to be able to get to university?
No, it's not because they weren't as smart. It's not because they didn't work as hard. It's because they didn't have a platform upon which to stand.
Does anybody really think that they didn't get what we had because they didn't have the talent?
Joe Biden effectively dropped out of the race after being caught plagiarizing multiple speeches. But I hope you understand what I mean when I'm making this point. It's not one thing, it is several. It's the lying about civil rights, lying about South America, lying about Social Security, lying about these speeches, lying even about his education and his background. Joe Biden is a proven, flagrant liar. Now that that's established, that Joe Biden is a habitual liar, let's talk about Tom Perez and this particular investigation that Tom Perez does not want to have. Tom Perez was asked about whether or not the DNC was going to open up some kind of investigative committee into Joe Biden's allegations. Tom Perez says, where's Tom Perez? All right, let me find Tom Perez. But Tom Perez comments and basically says, no, yeah, we're not going to do that. Here we are. Let's hear Tom Perez explain why he doesn't want to have an investigation into a credible allegation corroborated by multiple witnesses at, 4 at this point? Even her mom coming from the grave in order to back up her daughter. but you trust Biden implicitly. You trust the habitual liar implicitly.
With Joe Biden did have days to prepare for his interview about Tara Reade. He denied the allegations and urged the National Archives to release any alleged complaint from Tara Reade. But the archives said they are not responsible for records like that. Biden now says in a formal letter that he was mistaken, that it was at the archives, and asked the Secretary of the Senate for help.
Joe Biden has been very clear, Martha, that this did not happen. He was forceful in that, and he's been equally clear that when women come forward with complaints of this nature, they should be taken seriously. Their complaints should be investigated. They should be treated with dignity, and he's done exactly that. He called for the Senate to release any documents they have. She indicated that she filed a complaint. Joe Biden wants that complaint released. He is an open book. He understands that it's important for the information to get out.
But Mr. Perez, I want to stop you right there. Biden also says he will not release documents from his years in the Senate, now at the University of Delaware, because they don't contain personnel matters. And he kind of brushed aside suggestions that a search be done of just Tara Reade's name in those documents. The New York Times editorial board called for the DNC to convene an unbiased, apolitical panel to review portions of Biden's papers, saying his word is insufficient to dispel the cloud. Your communications director has called that idea absurd. Why?
Well, listen, there's been so many investigations of the vice president. The most comprehensive investigation of the vice president was when he was vetted by Barack Obama in 2008. I'm very familiar with vice presidential vetting process. They look at everything about you. They looked at the entire history of Joe Biden, his entire career. And I'll tell you, if Barack Obama had any indication that there was an issue, Barack Obama would not have had him as his vice president. Barack Obama trusted Joe Biden. I trust Joe Biden. And those investigations have been done. Now,
basically, yeah, we're not doing that. The other person basically said this is an absurd idea to have an investigation into Joe Biden. Well, there are multiple credible claims, and your argument is, I trust Joe Biden, I trust Obama. If Obama found anything, Obama wouldn't have done X or Y. That's insufficient. I don't know necessarily what Obama was looking for in the vetting process. I can't necessarily assume that Obama found and looked at each and everything pertaining to Joe Biden. How would Obama even know about the Reade case? But beyond how Obama would know about the Reade case, it's kind of besides the point. The only people who were there were Biden and Reade. And the only thing you have at our disposal is corroborating evidence going one way or the other. The word at this point is insufficient. If Reade came out with this case and there was nothing backing up this case wouldn't have gotten anywhere outside of just allegations. But the fact that she has cooperating evidence, not to mention there was oddities going on at work at the time of the claim, and she was either demoted or fired, I forget which one. But her duties at the company changed around the time that this took place. I'm making the point that there are several bits of corroborating evidence that come out for Reade, which makes this a credible claim. Joe Biden saying it didn't happen is not sufficient. And him saying it didn't happen being not sufficient, you would think that there would need to be something that tries to get to the bottom of it. Even if it comes out as inconclusive, due diligence, especially if you're the party of Me Too, you are literally burning Me Too to the ground in order to back up Joe Biden. And you're throwing Obama out there as kind of a dodge from this very specific question of an investigation. This is abysmal that the Democratic Party is willing to do this. This is utterly sad. Go back to the Kavanaugh hearings. Listen to all the things they were saying in the Kavanaugh hearings. And now all of these people have lined up saying, Joe Biden, I believe Joe Biden, I believe a flagrant liar. Do you remember this guy? Remember this guy? Al Franken.
Then the conversation turned to me. Over the last few weeks, a number of women have come forward to talk about how they felt my actions had affected them. I was shocked. I was upset. But in responding to their claims, I also wanted to be respectful of that broader conversation, because all women deserve to be heard and their experiences taken seriously. I think that was the right thing to do. I also think it gave some people the false impression that I was admitting to doing things that, in fact, I haven't done. Some of the allegations against me are simply not true. Others I remember very differently.
Al Franken was forced to step down. Al Franken, as you heard here, that was his resignation speech, did not admit to any of this stuff, meaning all of it were basically allegations. The allegations weren't as bad as this notion of rape or sexual assault, but the allegations were, at the very least, he was doing things that was somewhat inappropriate. There was a question of whether or not Franken should step down, but at the time, the Democratic Party was fully ensconced in this notion of appropriating the Me Too movement and wanted to have a certain degree of political force showing we are willing to get rid of this guy, even for allegations, because the allegations in and of itself was enough, because you got to believe women at all costs. Tom Perez, at the exact same time when this was taking place, wanted Al Franken to step down. Sexual misconduct, harassment, and assault have no place in the Democratic Party, the United States Congress, the White House, or anywhere else. That's why earlier today I called on Al Franken to resign. For too long, our society has looked the other way and allowed men to continue the behavior in virtually every industry. We must do better. We must step up and fix immediately. Regardless of the party, we must live up to our values by holding ourselves accountable and leading by example. And this party, this nugget, the Democratic Party will stand up for women and what is right. Public service is a public trust. If you are a candidate for office, an elected official who has engaged in sexual misconduct, you should step aside. Whether you sit in the U.S. House of Representatives, the U.S. Senate, or the Oval Office. Tom Perez told Al Franken, just basically with allegations, that he needs to step aside. Joe Biden, allegations, more serious allegations, credible, more serious allegations. And Tom Perez, a proven liar, I believe that proven liar. And Tom Perez in the DNC is basically saying, I trust Obama in his vetting process, so I now believe Joe Biden because I believe Obama also. I'll leave this here. Like I said, I didn't want to keep this long, but the fact that Joe Biden is somewhat of a proven liar, it is a problem. It's a problem. Like, share, and subscribe.